Welcome back, everybody. So, module 7 today, chapter 11, chapter 12. So now we're going to kind of finish out the last piece that's needed to really put together your eating program, your diet program. And that's eating around exercise, which is extremely important. So, first, let's get started with this concept of exercising fasted, which is this was popularized by Bill Phillips in his book Body for Life, and he talked about get up first thing in the morning and do cardio on an empty stomach, and he said that that's the best way to induce fat loss. There's some theoretical evidence behind this. After an overnight fast, your carbohydrates are depleted. And so theoretically, we're going to be burning more fats. And so some good theoretical evidence for this, but in application, the data doesn't really show that this is the best way to provoke fat loss. For example, here's a meta-analysis that asked this question: is exercising fasted better than non? And what did they find? They said, furthermore, performing exercise in a fasted state didn't influence weight loss or changes in lean or fat mass. And so they said it really isn't. And here's some reasons why. A 2016 meta-analysis found that when you're doing low intensity exercise, note that low intensity exercise, then after a fast, fat use was increased. But as you increase the intensity, then it wasn't. The most important thing that dictates what you're using for energy during exercise is your intensity. If you're exercising at a low enough intensity, you are burning fats, regardless if you're fasted or if you're not fasted. If you're exercising at a high enough intensity, it doesn't matter if you're fasted or not, you're going to be burning more carbs. So intensity is the driving factor that's going to dictate what you're using for fuel. And when they found this, when at low intensity, really, if you do the math, it was only 3.4 grams of extra fat, which is 30 extra calories. Again, 3,500 calories is a pound. And so you have to consider if that actually is if it's significant at all. Additional things to consider about this concept of should you exercise fasted. When you exercise fasted, we know that the body has to break down more proteins for energy. Well, remember, our body doesn't store protein. And so what that means is it has to break down body tissue. For us in the weight loss field, we're really concerned about breaking down skeletal muscle. Maybe 10% of the total energy that you use during your exercise could come from skeletal muscle. We obviously don't want that. And so that's another reason that maybe exercising fasted isn't the best. And then lastly, we know that when you exercise fasted, fatigue sets in much sooner. When fatigue sets in, you can't work out as hard, and then energy expenditure goes down. Exercising after a meal, that fatigue doesn't set in sooner. And so a lot of reasons that exercising fasted might not be the best way to do it. Let me show a couple more. Remember, we've got to think of exercise in a 24-hour period. Remember, 24-hour weight loss, right? What is the effects of that exercise on 24-hour metabolism? If we ignore that, then we're missing the beauty of exercise. What they did in this study is they said, we're going to have two groups of subjects. One group is going to eat their meal and then exercise, and we're going to measure energy expenditure and fat utilization. The other group is going to exercise and then eat their meal, right? So one exercised fasted, one exercised fed, and they wanted to know what was going to happen with fat burning and energy expenditure. So in the fasted group, they measured energy expenditure for 80 minutes. They did their exercise, they ate breakfast, and then for 24 hours, they measured energy expenditure. In the fed group, they ate breakfast, then they exercised, and then measured energy expenditure. And what they found was interesting. So remember, this RR, this is, it's telling us if we're using fats or carbs. So remember, if you're up close to 1, you're burning 100% carbs for energy. If you're down closer to 0.7, you're using 100% fats for energy, okay? So obviously we want to be lower to 0.7. And then you see on the bottom, this is fasted, this is fed. So during the exercise or immediately following, the group that was fasted did have a lower R value. That means that they burned more fat. So if we stop there and we just draw a line right there and say, let's ignore all this, then it looks like we should exercise fasted. But they only exercise for a little bit. What about what the effects of the exercise did for 24 hours? If we go out 12 hours later, now we have a shift where the group that exercise fed has a lower R value, meaning they're burning more fats. And then you go out to 24 hours and it's still lower. So meaning the effects of exercising on a light meal made it to where you were burning more fats for 24 hours. That's the goal. That's what you're striving to achieve. That's because they ate. Now, in addition, let me go back. Let me go into this next one. And so in addition, they burn more fats. And we also know that energy expenditure is higher after exercise. So remember EPOC or energy expenditure is higher after exercise if you eat something. Here's a study that kind of showed this example. In this study, they had people do all sorts of different things. They had them eat a meal and then exercise, and then they measured how many calories they were burning for 3 hours. Then they had them only eat a meal, and then they measured for 3 hours. Here they had them exercise and then eat a meal. And then here they only had them exercise. And then they measured energy expenditure for 3 hours. We're looking for the highest bar. The highest bar, or this line here, this square, was the group that ate the meal and then exercised. Their energy expenditure was the highest. Now, I did the math. It was only 55 extra calories above this condition, but still, that's 55 extra calories. Theoretically, if you have a stinking protein shake before, and I'm not talking about a big meal, we're going to get into this, have a protein shake or something before your workout, that could add up to 5 pounds, 4 or 5 pounds over the course of a year, just because you're eating something before your workout. So you don't need to exercise fasted. And actually, there's some good evidence that exercising slightly fed is better. So the other thing is, we know that exercising after a meal has been shown to decrease hunger for a longer period of time. And so now we have that benefit too. So now, what should you eat? And I know what you're thinking. You might be thinking, but Zach, you just said that we should probably skip breakfast. And we've already said that you should be exercising in the morning. Is this contradictory? No, I'm not talking about a meal before exercise. I'm talking about really a shake. You don't have to have a shake, but really a shake. Let me show you. So what should you eat before exercise? And then we'll get to after. So the pre-workout meal needs to be relatively high in fat. And the reason why is this has been shown to increase fat burning. For example, one study gave women a meal that was 30% fat, and then they had them exercise. And what they found is that fat oxidation increased by about 12 grams over 12 hours, meaning that's an extra 110 calories. That's extra calories just because they had a little bit more fat before their workout. And so it should be relatively high in fat. Not all fat is created equal. There are better fats. A lot of words on this page, I apologize. We categorize our fats based off of how many carbons they have. Okay, so we have short chain fatty acids that only have 6 carbons. We have medium chain that have 6 to 12, and long chain that have greater than 12 carbons. Based off the number of carbons, it dictates, well, one, where we're getting the fats from and what that fat does for our body. Short chain fatty acids, we don't really eat short chain fatty acids. These really ferment in our small intestine, our gastrointestinal tract. Very good for our gut bacteria, but we don't really eat them. And so we're going to kind of that out. Long chain fatty acids, that's really where we get probably the majority of our fat. And this is the fat that's more readily stored in our fat tissue. So that's not really ideal. But then we get this medium chain fatty acids. Medium chain fatty acids are unique. They go directly to the liver and they're used for energy. Meaning, if we look at long chain fats, they're traveled all throughout the body, and as it's moving throughout the body, it's storing in our fat at different places in the body. Medium chain triglycerides are different. Medium chain triglycerides go straight to the liver, and we use them for energy. A lot of researchers have actually called it fatless fat. Now, you need to be careful. They still contain calories, right? But my point is it's very hard to store medium chain triglycerides as fat. We use them for energy. And so because of this, there's been a lot of good data showing it helps with weight loss. For example, this is a review article, and they found that if we replace long chain triglycerides, so let's say usually you cook with, olive oil, which I'm not bad mouthing olive oil, it's a long chain triglyceride. Let's say I always cook with olive oil, and now I'm going to start cooking with coconut oil. Coconut oil is probably the easiest way to get medium chain triglycerides. If I do that, that increases energy expenditure by about 150 calories a day. And it increases satiety. Good data shows you're not as hungry. So now I'm going to not eat because I'm not going to be as hungry on account of anywhere between 60 and 230 calories a day. So think about it. You're increasing energy expenditure and I'm decreasing my desire to eat, which both of those obviously lead to weight loss. The data shows this too. It's not just theoretical. Here's a review article, randomized controlled trials. Again, all of these are authors and they're looking at the effects of either a control or medium chain triglycerides on body weight. That diamond is on the left of the line saying that it's going to reduce body weight. If we look at, here's body fat, it's reducing body fat. Here's subcutaneous fat, that's fat under your skin, and it's reducing subcutaneous fat. Here's visceral fat, this is the deep fat that we don't like, it's decreasing visceral fat. And so a lot of good data with medium chain triglycerides being effective. And so we should consume some medium chain triglycerides prior to the workout. How much should we consume? Let me pause on that and I'll get to that in a second. Let's get to one more thing that needs to be done before your workout. It's protein. You should have protein before your workout for a lot of reasons. Remember, I showed that protein and resistance training works together to where we're going to increase muscle mass or at least preserve it. So that's good. In addition, in this study, they found 24 hours after exercise, protein increased energy expenditure. So now we're increasing EPOC. So if we take that together, and remember that on this diet, you should be, or on this way of living, you should be increasing your protein content anyways. Having a protein shake will help you with that. So what does that mean? So before your exercise, the easiest that you should do is just have a shake with about a half of a tablespoon of coconut oil, which is only 60 calories. Okay, it's only 60 calories. Now, and then you should also have, I should have put this in here, then 20 grams of protein. Okay, so half a tablespoon of coconut oil and then 20 grams of protein. Now, if you've never consumed coconut oil, don't start off at half a tablespoon. You'll get GI distress. You're not going to feel good. Start with maybe a teaspoon, and if you feel good, then go to another teaspoon, and then get up to half a tablespoon. Now, no, this is only 60 calories. That's not breaking your fast. And then 20 grams of protein is about 110. And so really the whole thing's only about 170 calories. That's not really counted as a breakfast. It's not going to break your fast. That's why it fits just in line with everything that we're saying. It's going to augment your exercise. Now, if you're not exercising, you should, but on the day that you don't exercise, you're not obviously going to consume this, right? This is just pre-exercise, okay? I'll come back to the pre-exercise. Let's go to post-exercise really quick. The worst thing that you can do for weight loss, the worst thing that you can do is you go work out really hard and then you start eating like an athlete. Gatorade has ruined the average exerciser because they think they should be chugging Gatorade all the time. For an athlete, you should. An athlete has different goals than somebody who wants to lose weight. After exercise, you just depleted glycogen. EPOC should be elevated. Hormones should be increased such that you're burning fats. The moment that you consume carbohydrates after that workout, you're not burning fats anymore. You're burning carbs. I remember working with some ladies when I was doing some metabolic testing, and they were saying, Zach, I'm not losing weight. And I wasn't counseling them with weight loss. I was just doing a metabolism assessment. I said, well, let's talk a little bit. Tell me what you're eating. And I said, well, what supplements are you taking? And they showed me what they were taking after their workout, which was a great supplement for an athlete. It was very high in carbs and fats and proteins, great for an athlete for recovery, but it was also 350 calories. And I said, well, there's your stinking problem. And so they removed that supplement and they started losing weight. And so the moment you consume carbs after your workout, you're burning carbs, not fat. So what do you eat after your workout? Nothing. You don't eat anything. In addition, the exercise is kind of putting your body into more of an extreme fast, which is good. You're going to create this state of ketosis. Remember, a ketogenic diet is all the craze, right? Well, ketone bodies curb hunger. And so this is very beneficial. And so after your exercise, you don't eat anything until lunch. We'll talk about lunch in a second. So we're kind of putting this all together. Stay with me here. Take home message. Fasting before exercise is not ideal for weight loss. Fasting after is. Pre-workout shake. It should include 20 grams of whey protein and half a tablespoon of coconut oil. You're going to work up to that. Taking 20 grams of protein right off the bat's not going to hurt you though. It also should include some caffeine, about 180 to 200 milligrams of caffeine. I don't really talk about supplements because most of them are a waste, but caffeine has been shown to increase fat usage during exercise. And so my pre-workout ritual is I have a half teaspoon of coconut oil, 20 grams of whey protein, and I also have, I use Crystal Light or whatever, and I dump that in there too. Doesn't really matter if you want no calorie coffee or whatever your caffeine intake is. By the way, whatever your source of caffeine, make sure there's no calories in it or you're going to backfire. But that's really what you should be consuming before your workout. The meal following exercise should nothing. Don't eat anything. Drink lots of water, but don't eat anything. And I say about 6 hours. Okay, about 6 hours is then you're gonna wait to eat something. If you've been paying attention, and I'm assuming that you are because you're paying for this course, this all fits together. Let me show you. So now we have, this is what a theoretical ideal way to eat and exercise. So let's say that you wake up at 5 a.m., okay, because you're going to exercise. You wake up at 5 a.m. At 5:30, you have your pre-workout meal. I'm calling it a meal. It really is a shake. This is your half tablespoon of coconut oil and your protein and some caffeine. I've broken it down into servings. If you've noticed the same here with lunch, servings. This is to allow you to say, okay, here's the number of servings, and then you can kind of change. This here is in your book. And so I've showed you, okay, what's a serving of carbohydrates? That's 1/4 of a bagel. So if we go to protein, if you see the pre-workout shake is 3 servings of protein, that's actually 1 scoop. That's 1 scoop. 1 ounce of beef is a serving, right? 1 egg is a serving. 10 peanuts is a serving. And so a serving isn't that much, okay? So that's your pre-workout shake. And then you're going to exercise right here. Let's say that you exercise, at 6 a.m. So 6 a.m. exercise. You're not eating again until noon. Now, this is what we've said, where you're essentially skipping breakfast and your first meal is at noon. This meal should be high protein and high fat. I'm not anti-carb, but if you eat tons and tons of carbs there, you start burning carbs. And remember, based off the data we've said in the past, eating carbs later in the day is actually beneficial. So this lunch should be high protein, high fat. And then at 3, maybe you want a snack. At this point, you can introduce some carbs because you want to replenish some glycogen. So here's your snack at 3. 6 p.m. is your light dinner. Carbohydrates should be relatively high, 6 servings of protein, 3 servings of carb. And then you really don't eat. Maybe eat a snack if you're hungry, but especially within 2 hours of bedtime, you shouldn't eat. This is an example of 1,500 calories, 122 grams of protein. So if you're a little bit bigger, you would need to increase this. Again, don't be so, if you want to get really into it and really count calories, you can. The beauty of this, though, is you don't have to. The things that are key are the concepts, meaning the concepts are, okay, you're going to have a pre-workout shake that has some protein and fats in it. You're not going to eat again till lunch. And if all you want to do is just say, I'm not eating until lunch and I'll have my normal lunch, you'll still be better off and say, I'm going to have my normal lunch, normal snack, dinner with my family. I'm not going to eat again after dinner. You'll still have success. If you want to take it a step farther and start adding up this stuff and actually going into serving sizes, you can do that as well. But the beauty of the program is you don't necessarily have to. All right, I showed you this. Okay, so this is part one. I'm going to go ahead and stop this, and we're going to go to part two.